Hi, and welcome to my speed build. This is my first build in the new expansion pack, Life and Death. It comes with the world Ravenwood, and this is the empty lot called Mystic Crossroads in the neighborhood Morningvale. This house ends up having 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms with a basement, and in the basement is a butler's apartment, which has living room, bedroom, and bathroom. And I had heard that the style of this architecture is Romanian, and so I looked up images online to get inspiration for the front of the house. And so that is where this idea came from. And I also decided that this would be an older house. So you can see that there's a little bit of grunge at the bottom of the exterior wall paint. Not too much. It's not, supposed to be an abandoned house or anything, but just a wealthy family who's maybe on the brink of starting to have some financial troubles. And here you can see that I am kind of fussing with the balcony a little bit. I had forgotten about half walls, and that really would have been the best option to be able to keep a roof in front of a balcony like that. And now I'm using some vampire tiles in the front door area, and I really think that the vampire pack and the castle kit go really well with this life and death pack. So I used a lot of that in this build as well. I really love that the windows come frosted and they're a little bit grungy, and that there's some swatches that have broken glass as well. I think that's a really great detail. Those are really nice to see. And here I am back at the balcony, still trying to figure out what's going on. And then I was sort of cutting into where I had imagined one of the bedrooms was going to be. And now, so I kind of put that to the side, and now I'm back into the archway, swapping out the castle arch for what came in the game. I think that suits the front really well, making the tiles plain, just some plain stone tiles instead. So I decided to make the exterior a little bit plain color-wise. And here I am just kind of really deciding that I just want 2 windows, and that made the build feel a little bit too long, so I'm shrinking it down to make the 2 windows more balanced, and then copying that change on the second floor. And in my mind, this is a vintage build, and so there is not as much technology as there would normally be in like a modern build. And so there's no TV. The kitchen has older looking appliances and things like that. And I also even made a family to go along with this. So the family that I imagined living here, I eventually made as a family that I will put on the gallery next to the house. If you need a family to put in here, or of course you can build your own, but I did start to visualize who they were, and I thought it would be nice to make them into a family. And put them there on the gallery, and they're all in like some of the more vintage looking clothing, like I was imagining maybe the 1930s. And so they're all in older clothing. It's a mother and a father and 3 siblings. And I will get into their personalities in a little bit, maybe when we're doing the bedrooms. Right now, I'm doing the floor or the roof trim with some high school years trim because I just couldn't get the red roof to work. And I also felt like that was like a nice change to put on the roof, is to just have like the tower be separate. And this is the one of the children's bedroom. This is the middle child's bedroom. I'm adding some windows up there and still trying to figure out what I want that focal window to be at the top of the tower. At this point in the game, I hadn't realized that there was tall window heights, so I gave up and came back in here. You can see some things are already built, but I had some file issues and lost that bit there. But you can see I'm building the bathroom, and it's um the kitchen is meant to be more of a workspace that the family wouldn't necessarily go into. They would have somebody prepare all their meals, and so it's not really decorated. It just has the essentials because it's a workspace. They don't eat there. They don't hang out in there. And the bathroom, I actually wished that I had made the door come into the living room, because I feel like this family is very proper and they wouldn't have their guests walk through a workspace to get to the bathroom, and I ended up making a second version of this house where I did that. So you can find this house, and then you can find a second version where I've made some changes and added some more activities. Because one thing I forgot about this house was to add activities that would have been appropriate for like a vintage home to have. And so this is the dining room here. And again, it's meant to be a family on the brink of losing their wealth. They haven't yet, but you can see the wallpaper's a little dingy. The chairs are mismatched at the dining room table. So it's just little signs of this happening. And I am trying to use a lot of the green items in this pack. I really love the green tones that come here. And so I'm moving forward trying to find a green carpet and a green chair. But then I had remembered the vampire chair. And I love that chair. And it's a little bit hard to use in builds, like because it's just has such a specific look to it. So I did sacrifice the green that I wanted in here so that I could have the little vampire chair. And then I realized that there was bookshelves in the kit. I'm basically learning about this kit as I'm building in this video. So you might see me swap out a lot of stuff once I realize that it's part of the kit or the expansion pack. I love the tall bookcases. I love all the different colors and how the book color changes as well. And I'm just adding more clutter to try to use more pieces from the kit. So that's a filing cabinet that you can put things on top of. And then now I'm moving into the foyer. And again, I'm thinking of a proper, wealthy, vintage family. And so the foyer wouldn't have shoes and purses and jackets. It's the foyer is where your guests come and somebody knocks on the door and the butler invites them in, but they don't just sort of like wander through the house, maybe how a more casual thing might be, but they wait there. And so since that's a waiting space for the guests, it looks fancy and it has expensive artwork and flowers, and it's a place to impress people as they come into your home. And in the living room here, I am again trying to use more green. At this point, I hadn't realized that the fireplace and window come in green, so they're just sort of placeholders at this point. I'm trying to figure out what color sofa I like, and if do I want the same rug in the living room as in the office. I love thinking about those kinds of details. And now I have discovered that there's green fireplace and window, so I've changed that. And now I'm thinking, how green do I want? Do I want everything green? So I end up with more of a green and black vibe to this room here. And I'm also really bothered by the couch being against the stairs. And I think there's a few times in this video where I keep going back to that sitting arrangement. Love those vintage globe lights. And I love the soft glow that they have. And I feel like this is realistic to a home that was probably built before electricity was standard, and then the electrical lines were added later. And oftentimes when that would happen, it wouldn't be a lot. It would just be sparse here and there, especially depending on their budget to be adding electricity to a home. And so that is why it's dimly lit. Because I was sort of going along that logic that they didn't always have full-on lighting. And now I'm just adding more objects to try and add to that vintage feel. I love the tea set. I wish it came in more than 3 colors. I just think that's so cute. And I'm just going through and adding these books. I also really enjoy those books. I love the swatch that I had chosen there. That's a swatch I use often, and in trying to make that, give it this vintage look here. And swapping things out because I had found the vampire bird skull, and so of course I had to use that. And now I'm moving on to the primary bedroom, and I want this room to be green as well. I'm just really loving the green shades that came in this pack, so I'm just using them as often as I can. And adding some wallpaper in the hallway there as well, and going through and choosing the nightstands. So these are one of my favorite nightstands for vintage builds, and as well the vampire lamps as well. And now I'm just trying to match the wood colors and get them to kind of be a little bit more cohesive. And I'm just love that the green in the vampire pack matches the green in this pack. And so now I'm moving on to the oldest child's bedroom, and they have a fireplace tucked into the chimney, and that's possible because it's The Sims. And one of my favorite vintage beds. I wish it came in more swatches. Another favorite vintage bedside table and lamp as well. Love those colors. And now I'm adding the windows and some lighting, just trying to keep the lighting consistent. I love the green light that comes through on the bed and on the floor. I think that's really nice. And I was going to put artwork above the fireplace, but then I thought that the mirror looked creepier. So I decided to have a mirror hang there because I like how the candles reflect in the mirror. I thought that was a little bit creepier. And now I'm just sort of color matching because I decided that this room should be tan. And so I'm just changing bed colors and wall colors and desk colors. I love that desk. I wish we had more single square desks that are like not for children. I feel like most of the ones, almost all the ones that are like that are for kids' rooms. And also, this is the oldest child's room. She's a teen who's very serious and is under a lot of pressure from her father to take over the business and keep the family legacy moving forward and improve their financial situation. Adding some exterior lights so I don't forget. And these are also from the pack. Um, Really great styling for those as well. And then I changed it up for the front door just to get something a little bit fancier as they greet their guests. Filling in the dining room a little bit more because I realized that they had a grandfather clock, and of course I have to add that in. I love that oval rug, but that's the only color I use. And I do wish that that rug came in more colors. That's from Base Game. And of course, we need to use the light up fountains, and at this balcony I really like to use whenever I get a chance. And I think it adds a nice dimension and depth to the build as well. And then just adding some stairs in here and then moving back because you can't forget the tarot cards. So I had to add those. And I love these flowers, especially for older looking builds, just to kind of show that the house is, not kept up like it used to be. And in older builds, I also like to use a lot of photographs for artwork. I think it sort of adds um, to the vintage feeling of the place. So once I realized or remembered that we had those in game, I added those instead and then moved the map to the bedroom and then put that on the blank wall. And can't forget the spice rack. And that little plant, love that little plant. And then here, I had cut this out, but I just tried to do so many different pieces of art and nothing was working. So I put down the vampire curtains and I was happy with that. Love the paranormal beaded curtains. Wish they came in more swatches. They're just so pretty. And then that tarot card poster, I just picked the one that I felt matched the room the best. Love the haunted house painting. Had to put that in the corner with the rustic chair. And here I am trying to add like a side table to that as well, and just sort of filling up the space and going through adding windows because the artwork wasn't fitting, or like I couldn't find anything that I felt really would fit on those spaces. So I'm just sort of measuring them out now. And oh, yes, I still was moving that chair around a lot. It had been in three different rooms, and I just really liked it for the vibe of this house. And now I've moved on to the nursery. So there's a toddler in this family, and they want to be a spellcaster. And so I made sort of like a witchy room for them and did everything. I tried to use as much green as possible. I really like the green that we've been getting in kits and packs lately. So this is supposed to be a green and brown room. And I'm just kind of going around and just testing out different swatches to get the right look. I also used the nursery kit, of course, as you can see. But then I decided that I wanted there to be a little bit more uniformity with the furniture because I don't think that they would have bought all different furniture for every single room. So this is just trying to make it more unified. The same as like when you build a house, you would pick all the same flooring for the most part. Like you wouldn't just keep changing the flooring in every single little room. You usually make it pretty standard, especially in older houses, I would think. So that was just my logic there, and just bringing in the same furniture, and everything's like the same color wood for the most part, or at least pretty close. And now I am into the tower bedroom. And this is the middle child, and they want to be a vampire. And so I made this room with lots of black and red, and this gave them the stone floor because this is sort of like an unfinished room, um, that maybe nobody really wanted, but this child was like, this fits my vampire goals and aesthetic. So now I'm still fussing with the living room, like I said, jumping around with this because I don't like that the sofa touches the stairs. That just doesn't fit what I'm going for with this house. And now I'm starting to work on the basement, building the butler's apartment, which is a bedroom, living room, and bathroom. And then on the outside where the stairs are is a like storage, cleaning, butler's pantry kind of area. Now, in the version of this that I uploaded to the gallery, I ended up moving the stairs outside of this box. Like I made another rectangle, just a skinny one to just put the stairs in. And then there's a door that leads into that storage area just because I didn't realize it was like open to the elements. I just hadn't thought about that. So this is a way that the storage room is completely closed and it's not open to what's going on outside. So you'll notice that difference if you do decide to download this. And now I'm just sort of like making um, different adjustments to make the living room and bedroom a little bit more, give him a little bit more room. And for this butler, I'm imagining that they don't really keep him or them in mind with renovations or upkeep, or like there's just a lot of dingy walls and older furniture, and they're just not really thinking of him, or I don't know, because I know you can't pick your butler in the game, but I sort of imagining an older man from Henford and Bagley. So you can see that I have tried to incorporate a lot of not a lot of items, but a lot of artwork from that pack, just to sort of show that that's where I'm imagining this person came from. And if you can pick your own butler, I'm not aware of it other than maybe using mods or something, or maybe editing when you figure out who your butler is, edit them. But again, they don't have to be an old man from Henford or Bagley. It could be anybody that you want. But that was just what I was imagining. And so I decorated accordingly, that, this person has been with the family for generations, like, well, maybe not generations, but at least since the grandparents. Maybe he started as a young man, as a footman. Um, and moved up to become the butler. And this is the bathroom in here, and you can see that it's even more simple than the other bathroom in the kitchen. And now I'm making a mistake, and I am putting the shower in over there, and I don't think that your sim can get there because I think the sink might be blocking it. I can't remember which side gets blocked. So I do flip that in the build that you'll see on the gallery. I flip the shower back to that other side, so they can definitely access it. And now I'm adding crates. I love to do that in basements and attics, is to add a bunch of crates and storage. And I'm just going through debug. Some of it's purchase and some of it is debug, and just going through and collecting everything. This usually takes me a while to go through debug and grab everything that I want. And they're from cats and dogs and Snowy Escape and high school years. So it's like a pretty big variety down here of all the different barrels and boxes, and things. And I thought it would be fun to put the broken down dresser, because it's the same dresser that the butler has in a different color. So I thought maybe, he got some leftover furniture put in his room that he could use. Again, because he's meant to be like an afterthought. Like, this family isn't a great family, and when you see the traits that I've given them, you can see they're not the nicest people. They're not necessarily evil, but they're just not very nice. And so this is the pantry area, and It's mostly decoration. Like there's not really anything playable here. I just wanted to give the vibe of like this is where the butler goes to prepare food or get food, or if there's a cook or a maid, this is where they come down and get the things that they need. And I also wish that we had more pantry clutter. I wish we had more dry goods that we could put on shelves. There's not a whole lot to choose from, so it'd be great to have more of those type of things. And even that food shelf that I have in the corner, I believe that's from Dine Out, and even that's a little bit too industrial or modern for this build. And it would be great if we had a shelf that looked like it belonged more in a home or residential area. I still like it. I still think it's really good. It's just would be great to also have something that's more home-like. Love that pile of crates with the little oranges falling out of it. I use that pretty often in storerooms. Love the cookbooks, especially that red checkered swatch. That's probably the one that I use the most. Some debug soil bags just to kind of help fill out the garden area over there. And then I'm just basically at this point trying to pick any kitchen clutter that looks vintage and like looks like it would be from 100 years ago or whatever. So some milk canisters and those wine bottles, and even those two bottles next to it, those are from the new pack as well, so I added those just to make sure I'm using as much of the pack as possible. And the hanging aprons, I do love them. Now we're moving on to landscaping, and I have to tell you that I am an extremely slow landscaper, and this is sped up to 8 times. So the rest of the build was 4 times the speed. This is 8 times the speed because I'm a very slow landscaper. I'm very undecided. I sort of like just build it as I go. I don't typically plan out a whole lot. So yeah, it's very slow moving. I love these debug items from the new pack. They're really great for breaking up long fences. I don't really like to have one long fence without any posts on it. So if it doesn't come with that, then I like to go back through debug and try to find ones that do that. I'm adding in the ivy, and just as a note, I'm not that great with the ivy. Like I always forget to check that it's not poking inside the house. So I tried to do my best to fix all of it. I think I got all of it, but maybe I don't know. But I think I did. This is how I make fences when I don't want them to be part of the foundation height. I make the line and then I draw each side into the house so that way it doesn't make the foundation. And then I chose the wrought iron to match with the fence that goes around the perimeter. And so you'll also see that I have a lot of objects that are scattered all over the yard. That's just how I do landscaping. Landscaping is very chaotic for me, and I cut out a ton of stuff during this process just because it was me throwing stuff around, making piles, moving things around. Um, but I did have a process with this house, even though I was sort of landscaping as I went and not really planning it as far as the shapes of each little garden area. There was a thought process that going along with this family losing money, their garden is overdone and like or overgrown, and that's because they can't afford their usual maintenance or gardener person. And so I have made it just sort of a little bit overgrown, a little bit messy, but not too chaotic. Like the gravel path isn't looking great. Their flowers are everywhere. There's weeds, there's grasses, like wild grasses growing up. And so that was my thought behind that. Like I'm trying to show just the very subtle decline of this family's wealth. Now, in my mind, I don't know what that decline, what caused it, because I didn't really think about why they were wealthy, more of like an old money wealth. Oh, back in the living room, because it was really, really bothering me. And I just couldn't figure out how I wanted everything to go. And now I'm making like a wild corner over there. I just started doing that, but just more overgrown, trying to find some of the more, not scraggly, but just the ones that are not crisp and neatly trimmed. I love these debug hydrangeas. I love that they have a little bit of a yellow tint to them. I think it really adds to vintage bit vintage builds or any sort of not overgrown build, but when your gardens have that sort of color scheme to it, that really adds. Now I'm just making a wild corner that's just literally weeds. And I think at one point I find the blue flowers from the world and I add them in. There's debug thorns from the new pack, adding those in. Trying to fill in that corner a little bit more with an overgrown bush. Oh, there's the blue flowers. So they're from the landscape of the world, and I thought I'd put them in there as if they weren't put there by the gardener, like they got there themselves. There's more of the wild grasses. Here's the overgrown ivy, kind of encroaching onto the pathway to make it look a little bit messy, a little bit unkempt. More wild grasses to make that look a little bit messed up. And then I chose those because to me these look like wildflowers, and I think they're from like one of the camping, some kind of camping pack. And so it's like a mixture of like the orange flowers, the poppies and the irises were like originally there. And then I kind of imagine that the wildflowers and the green grasses are uh, they got there themselves because of the lack of gardening. And the same with this ground cover. I imagine that was original to the garden, but again, it being unkempt, it's starting to grow out onto the path. So this bush I'm flipping to the other side of the fence because I really like the clipping. And so when I noticed that clipping, I just flipped it so that way that back fence has a little bit more interest to it. And, just filling in with wildflowers and overgrown stuff, working on the side garden, again, keeping with the overgrown look to it. Like it's still somewhat of a garden, but, it's not getting the care that it needs. And I don't know if this is new with the pack or if all swing sets do this, but that metal swing set moved on its own. I was testing the house to make sure everything functioned, and I looked over and the swing was swinging. So that was really, I just really like that added extra bit in there. And it has great lighting. Like the lot itself has really great lighting, and the light kind of like drifts through the lot. It's very spooky and dramatic. It was really fun. And oh, so now I'm making a grave site because I mean it's the life and death pack. So I did that, and like I said, I'm new to the pack and I didn't realize that there was like bigger graves that you could use instead of those dirt piles. I could have used like a grave thing. And so now the graves are a little bit fresher than maybe what goes along with the story I have in my head. So if you do decide to download this and you want to replace the fresh dirt with an older grave, that might be better for whatever story you want to tell with this house. But yeah, that was just me not realizing how huge this pack is, because I'm kind of one to just jump in, and I don't always pull every single object out. I just jump in. So I did miss that, which is sort of the price you pay when you don't look at everything at once. Um, and so now I'm just back to adding more gravel. I decided to expand it a little more because it was kind of tight in there. And I needed a path to get up to the graves. And then as for who the graves are, I feel like it's probably the grandparents. Um, oh, and then I added that fountain because it's like a broken down one from Debug, and I thought that would be cool storyline to say like they're running out of money, the fountain broke down, so they didn't get it fixed, so they put a fern in it, and now it's a planter. Um, but yeah, so back to the graves, I decided that they were the father's parents, and they passed away, and the family inherited this home, so they moved in to take over what the grandfather had been doing. And they're finding out that maybe he didn't do as good of a job as they thought he was doing. And I do wish I had put another bedroom in here somewhere so that way I could have said that that was the grandparents' bedroom. So maybe there was like a little bit of overlap with them, or maybe, but I didn't. So, and that was the storyline I'm going with there. Oh, here I couldn't find the not debug version of that table. I was struggling to find that. So I had to pull them all out and figure out what I was doing. Love any reason to use these two pieces with the statue and the arch. Love that new fountain. I forget the name of the kit or the pack that it came in, but I really do enjoy using that. And that's everything for this build. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And now I'm going to leave you with a tour of the build.